Wow, it just means I've been in a long time. That's all that means. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. And Mike, thank you for the kind introduction. Yes, there seems to be a Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, a mafia here, but that's not unusual because I live with one every day sitting right there. But it's great to be back for this year's Sea, Air, and Space, our nation's premier maritime exposition. Let me begin by welcoming all of you in the audience. Whether you're in uniform, in a suit, flag and general officers, senior executive leaders, industry partners, innovators, and leaders from academia. It's an honor to be surrounded by the people who matter most to the future of American sea power. Also want to thank the entire Navy League team for bringing together this extraordinary event, because that is what this room represents. The people who design combat power, the people who build combat power, and the sailors who take that combat power forward into the fight. There are not many places where that full ecosystem comes together in one room. This is more than a conference. It's a gathering of a tribe that is like no other in the world. A tribe designed to defend, protect, and sustain our nation's prosperity and the vital interests around the world. And that matters, because the challenges we face today demand more than incremental improvement. They demand that we rethink how we generate combat power as a system. The tyranny of threats across the globe, the brittleness of our industrial base, the speed and adaptability of our adversaries, these are not isolated problems. They are system-level challenges that will require system-level solutions. And let me be clear, if we try to solve them with the same processes, the same timelines, and the same assumptions that got us here, we will lose our advantage. Over the past several months, I have been on a campaign to communicate the U.S. Navy fighting instructions. Many of you have heard me talk about where we're going, and today I want to talk about how we're going to get there. Because we have moved past the point of the intellectual argument. We are now in a phase of ruthless execution and uncompromising accountability. Because in today's environment, speed of decision and execution are not a luxury. They're a warfighting requirement. And the way we're going to do that, the way we're building a Navy that can fight and win under those instructions, is through the Golden Fleet Initiative. The Golden Fleet Initiative is not a collection of platforms, it's a warfighting system, a fleet design, a new Navy paradigm, and it represents a fundamental shift in how we think about naval combat power. It's designed to generate mass, lethality, and adaptability at scale. This future fleet integrates a high-low mix of crewed and uncrewed platforms, from USVs and UUVs to frigates, destroyers, submarines, battleships, amphibious ships, and carriers, into tailored force packages enhanced by tailored offsets that answer the combatant commander's call for solutions to their key operational problems. All enabled by advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, directed energy, and containerized capabilities. Because the era of platform-centric thinking is over. Combat power is now defined by how fast we can integrate, adapt, and deliver effects. On the low-end side, attritable and rapidly manufactured unmanned systems will expand our fleet's reach and lethality, improving sensing, screening, deception, and strike. On the high-end side, our main battle force, like 3 destroyers, Columbia-class submarines, carriers, and the next-generation combatants, will command the fight, deliver maximum payloads, and punch harder than the sum of their weight class. Simply put, the Golden Fleet Initiative designs our combined forces to connect our foundry to the fleet and our fleet to how we fight. It creates a continuous engine that can produce, adapt, and employ combat power faster than any adversary, leveraging the head strategy in order to optimize our Navy. It helps solve our hardest operational problems. Problems like distributed sensing and scouting, counter-targeting, massing and synchronizing precision fires, establishing sea denial and sea control with world-class maritime domain awareness, and even supporting new and innovative ways for tackling contested logistics. It's how we generate enough combat mass. It's how we generate enough combat mass, not just to compete, but to culminate in a fight and win decisively with mass where it matters, and with low-risk options when we need them. Perhaps most important is how we preserve the Navy's differentiated value, projecting sovereign, decisive combat from the sea, globally, persistently, and most important, on our terms. For too long, we optimize platforms. The Golden Fleet Initiative is designed to optimize naval combat power. Let me show you what that looks like in practice. The best place to begin is with a real-world example, because theory is meaningless until it survives contact with reality. Over the last several months, our joint and combined forces have been engaged in sustained operations against the Iranian regime and its proxies. What you're seeing is not just naval power, it's an early expression of the Golden Fleet design. Distributed forces, persistent presence, continuous application of combat power across multiple domains. And at the center of that fight is the United States Navy sailor. 19-year-old technicians loading ordnance, 26-year-old officers of the deck navigating dangerous waters, chiefs leading from the deckway. Countless sorties from Ford and Lincoln, courageous transits, and effective blockade operations in hostile waters from our destroyers. Marines and sailors operated together in combined arms aboard Tripoli, and submarines locked and loaded beneath the waves. Their actions reflect their enduring fighting spirit of the Navy, and I could not be more proud to serve alongside them. Several weeks ago, after the initial strikes, the Joint Force needed some covert naval options, and fast. Not a 6-month deployment cycle, and not a full strike group. They needed decisive combat power quickly, and the window was closing. So we gave them one of our nation's greatest assets. We took a submarine operating in the Indo-Pacific, ran it through a tailored training and certification package, surged it west, and repositioned it in the Indian Ocean. Within days, not months, she was in the fight, integrated, ready, lethal, sinking an Iranian warship and executing precision strike missions that only the Navy could provide within this time frame. This was not improvisation, that's differentiated value. That was a glimpse of the future force. That's speed, that's reach, that's lethality. And we did it not to succeed in that moment because we had more platforms. We succeeded because we adapted faster than the problem. That is the Golden Fleet in action. A tailored force, a reconfigurable force. A force where payloads, not just platforms, define combat power. A force that gives commanders options at operational speed. Here's the part that matters most for this audience. Industry made this possible. Your systems, your designs, your innovation. You are our teammates who turn presence into combat power. Because in today's fight, advantage does not go to the side with the most platforms. It goes to the side that adapts fastest. Speed of sensing, speed of decision, speed of adaptation. And if we are slow to adapt, we will be outpaced before we are outgunned. That's what the head strategy and tailored forces sit at the heart of the fighting instructions. Fighting instructions are not a strategy document. They are a demand signal, a demand for faster innovation, faster building, faster integration, and faster adaptation of lethal combat power. From the foundry to the fleet and into the flight, the Golden Fleet Initiative is built for one scenario. It's not built for one scenario. It's built to adapt across the full spectrum of conflict, across multiple theaters, across multiple adversaries. The question is no longer what is the right platform. The question is how do we adapt, generate, and certify the right composition of naval combat power faster than the adversary can respond. That is what tailored forces do. They allow us to assemble force packages for specific operational problems, from sea control to contested littorals, to long-range precision fires to counter-targeting enemy networks, to distributed sensing to contested logistics, all executed under an enhanced mission command framework, designed to delegate autonomy to the most suitable level that can sense, synthesize, and action the battle space most effectively based on the assessed tactical situation and the acceptable level of risk. Tailored forces combine survivable high-end platforms, agile command nodes, and low-cost attritable systems. They're integrated through autonomy, AI, and modular and containerized payloads. That is how the Golden Fleet creates mass, concentrates mass, and distributes that mass. Resilient mass, reconfigurable mass, mass that imposes dilemmas on the adversary's decision calculus. And for industry, this is your signal. Build systems that integrate. Build systems that scale. Build systems that sustain in contact, and build them fast. If your system cannot plug into a tailored force package with tailored offsets designed with the sustainable concept of deployment, not just employment, then it is not relevant to the fight we are preparing for within the fighting structure's new paradigm. With that in mind, here's where I need everyone in the room to lean in. If we are serious about the Golden Fleet Initiative, then the Foundry must deliver differently. Because the Foundry is not just buildings and sustaining platforms, it's about generating combat capability at speed and at scale. Right now, our biggest constraint is not technology, it's integration and adoption by the fleet. It's about the total risk we accept when a system or capability arrives incomplete, unintegrated, or not ready to fight as a system of systems with strong support across the .MLPF. This, in combination with the countless lessons I learned personally at U.S. Fleet Forces, is why I created and began to implement what I'm calling the Fleet Introduction Operating System, or FIOS for short. Let me be clear, this is new. This is how we change the way the Navy builds and fights. Under FIOS, when the Navy receives a new capability, subsequent updates and upgrades should be as seamless as updating an app on our phone. That means common interface standards. It means modularity, open architecture, virtualization with digital twins, familiar look and feel, modern training content that matches the style of what we are doing in the career training continuum, built in from day one. Sustainment designed before steel has ever been. FIOS is how we end the era where the fleet is the integration lab. If the capability shows up, it's ready to fight day one. Alongside that, we're driving a new containerized capability campaign plan. Containerization allows us to decouple payloads from platforms, to rapidly reconfigure forces, to tailor capability to mission, to scale effects across the entire fleet. This is how we emphasize payloads over platforms in turn every platform into a potential combat node, and every payload into a scalable weapon. If it fits in a container, I want it. And I should be able to fight anywhere in the world with it across many platforms at speed, at scale. This is how the Foundry fuels the fleet. So here's my ask for everyone in the room. Stop bringing me concepts that only work in isolation. They don't have the full concept of deployment baked into the design, that have not been developed with a FIOS mindset across the .MLPF spectrum. Bring me capabilities that work on arrival, integrated, scalable, modular, containerized, developed with modern training and implementation products with a sustainment tail. Concepts that are ready to fight, not from a PowerPoint OB1, but in a way that naval combat power is generated, integrated into the fleet design, and delivered whole worldwide. Because we're not just building and fielding platforms, we're building and implementing the Golden Fleet Initiative. Therefore, everything we build must contribute to that ecosystem, that mindset, that integrated lethality from the viewpoint of both the commander and the sailor. When we do build for modularity, build for interoperability as well, and build for the entire life cycle. FIOS concept comes alive when we fully realize the speed advantage we are seeking, from acquisition reform to the waterfront to deployed effects, all within a global battle space. And through all of this, never forget who this is for. Every system we build, every capability we build, ultimately, it lands in the hands of our sailors. A sailor who has to trust it, a sailor who's to fight with it, and if it's not ready for them, it's not ready. Period. I'll close with this. Admiral Arleigh reminded us that the instruments of war exist to preserve peace. Today, I would add, the side that innovates, adapts, builds, and sustains classes controls the fight. And naturally, the side that controls the fight controls the outcome. If we're not moving faster than the problem, then we're already behind it. Fighting instructions are clear and provide immense opportunity for every single person in this room. Now it's on us to deliver capability at the speed of relevance and put it in the hands of our sailors so they can be ready to fight on day one. For industry partners, you're not just suppliers, you're force multipliers, our teammates in arms. For our sailors, every capability we build must give you options, reach, and advantage with the confidence you need to gain mastery. For the Navy, the Golden Fleet Initiative, optimized by the HEAD strategy, underwritten and empowered by tailored courses and tailored offsets, and executed through the FIOS concept, is where we must go. This is a new way of thinking, a new way of warfighting, and a new way of aligning what we build with how we fight. If we get this right, we will deliver a better Navy, more than just a better Navy. We will build a Navy that will adapt faster than the fight itself. A fleet that generates combat mass at scale, a fleet that absorbs shock and still prevails, a fleet that deters by being unquestionably ready, with credible deterrence built on escalation dominance and our timing and tempo. All of this is our differentiated value to our Navy and to our nation. So when you leave this room today, carry this with you. Every system you design, every solution you develop, and every capability you build must be built to integrate, scale, and sustain at speed with the sailor in mind. If you can't do that, it's not ready. But if you can, you're part of something special, something unique, something that gives our sailor the edge in every fight, every mission, every time. That is the essence of the fighting instructions. That is boundary, fleet, fight, in practice. That's how we translate innovation into operational advantage at speed and scale on demand. And that is how we will ensure our Navy and our joint force remain dominant, ready for any challenge, capable of preserving strength, peace through strength. Thank you so much for letting me spend the afternoon with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Caudle has set aside some time to answer questions from the audience. You can submit questions using the QR code that is about to be shown on the screen. CNO Sir, our first question is, what would it take to use our efficiency analytics to deliberately shrink our commitment footprint instead of using them to compensate for undermanning and defer operational risk?
The first part of that was to use our analytic capability. Is that what I heard?
To use our efficiency analytics.
I look at that more as kind of an and kind of an or. I think all of that needs to be brought in on the things we're doing, in particular with artificial intelligence.